gaudy, so gaudy, so gaudy, gaudy stats, gaudy stats, gaudy stats. Good God, that's gaudy.
The thing that I've realized about Bill Simmons, not Ben Simmons, but Bill Simmons in the last few years, and he does this with football too, is that he's such a prisoner of the moment.
Oh, he's
where,
so
like,
reactionary.
it's so
Unreal.
reactionary. And like, I guess it was always like this, but I've just noticed it more in the last few years where it's like Dallas wins the game. And he's like, I just think Dallas has a better core. And Russillo's like, I mean, not really. Phoenix won like 15 more games than they did in the regular season. He's like, I don't know. I think so. Or like, I think James Harden's back. And then like, because Harden had a really good game 4.
He's had like one good game and like
he had one, yeah.
He had
and
a
he's
good
just
game
like,
against Toronto too.
There, Philly wins 2 games at home, and he's like, well, there's more guys I trust on Philly than Miami. And then Miami wins. He's like, well, I just don't see how Miami could possibly blow this series. And it's like, dude, you can't just like you're like a 55-year-old man. Like you've watched these playoffs repeatedly. Like you can't just change your mind with every game. This is a marathon.
He's like what Chris Berman called an excitable boy. He's just he just like gets really caught up in the moment, and it's kind of like it's good because he has energy and you can tell he cares. Like the whole business about Draymond Green, like calling him out and saying, that, I mean, he knows a lot about basketball. Bill Simmons does, obviously, but you're right. I mean, he's so reactionary, and I don't know. It's kind of funny too how Draymond and like some of these other athletes, like they're becoming the media.
Yeah.
And they don't even realize it. Like they're like lashing out at the media. Like meanwhile, Draymond's doing his podcasts like every night after a game.
Yeah, no. Like, by the way, Draymond, like he's awesome in studio and stuff. He's so good. Like he's so good. I mean, he is. I was thinking about it, and like I think that the Fox execs think that they're going to get all this gold out of Tom Brady. And I just don't, I'm not convinced until he proves me wrong that Tom Brady has a lot of interesting things to say. I think the moment Draymond retires, or hell, even if the Warriors don't make it to the finals this year, Ben, I think they should put Draymond in the booth because he is absolutely phenomenal.
I think he's great.
But you're right.
The only thing that makes me think, go ahead.
I was going to say, the whole like fuck Jalen Green thing, like Simmons annoys me, but like that was so innocuous and like off the cuff. Like
it was just a joke. Yeah, they were just talking about who their choices were for Rookie of the Year, and like, and then he later on, like a minute later, is like, I love Jalen Green. I think he came on at the end of the year.
Like if a player made you angry because you needed 8 points from him in fantasy and he got you 6, and it was like I mean, Chris Godwin, and you were like, fuck Chris Godwin. Like, I mean, that's not, if someone took that out of context, like, oh, Ben doesn't like Chris Godwin. It's like, no, he was just frustrated with him, and it was kind of like in jest.
Meanwhile, I do love Chris Godwin. I've always liked his reception totals and everything. I just want to put that on the record. But no, but like, and then Draymond and all these NBA players, they're like taking this thing out of context, which is something traditionally people in the public eye, especially athletes, hate when you take like something they said out of context, and they're doing it with a media member. It's just kind of funny how the kind of everyone's like eating each other up,
No, that's a great point. I hadn't considered that. That's a great point. And you would think too, it's like there's actually a lot of things you could get Bill Simmons on, but you've picked like the dumbest thing to like try and take him to task on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's but no, it's like there's so many good podcasts, and there's the Low Post, and it's just a lot of times they talk about the same shit. But I've been enjoying it. But I need to talk to you about something. We've both been kind of like over the years, we've been texting each other back and forth, like kind of like dancing around it. But I think we should delve into this. It's a little bit of a self-indulgent thing because I am a Suns fan, have been for a long time, since 1993. Barkley and that amazing team full of oddballs took Jordan's Bulls to 6. It was kind of a cute story to borrow a phrase, but like they got there. I think they went down 3-0 and they came back and won 2 games or something like that. But anyways, I love the Suns. tried and true, but I just can't. I don't just talk. Like, convince me. Like, pitch to me like why I should like Devin Booker first. We'll start with him because he is so unlikable to me. I don't know why. Like, I like a lot of NBA players. Like, I love Giannis. I like Luka. Like, I enjoyed Michael Finley, just to pull a random basketball player. Yeah, Mike Finn, Tim Duncan, But Devin Booker is just like the way he carries himself is so arrogant, and I just can't. And like he shows up like wearing like shades, and he's like dressed like Ice Cube and Friday or something like all the time. And he just thinks he's so fucking cool. And I don't see it. Like, I like cool guys. I mean, I think you do too. But I'm not under his spell. And why do you think that is? And do you like Devin Booker? Like, what's your take?
So I think that this goes back to something we identified last June when we talked about the Suns, which is Booker's, or Book as he's known.
Yeah.
Book's decision to align himself with Kobe, because we don't like Kobe, and it is sort of hard to get that association out of your head when he says it. I don't dislike his game as much as you do, but I also wouldn't say I like it. I'm kind of neutral on it. I totally see what you mean by the arrogance thing.
I do like the rivalry with him and Luka, though. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's a fun rivalry. I think that's.
Is he even close to Luka's level though? Like, is he even? It seems like he's like so far away. Like, he's like maybe 25% less as good as Luka.
I think that they're different players. Like, I mean, Luka seems like he's expected to do a lot more. I mean,
playmaking,
yeah, he's much more of a playmaking kind of sort of section repertoire. Of his toolkit, of his repertoire. Yeah. Thank you. Word is escaping me there on a Friday afternoon.
Well, you've had a long day. You've been working.
Yeah, no, it's good. Repertoire is exactly what I was looking for. And Booker is more of a scorer, I think, too, Ben. I mean, your first love.
Just to interject really fast, he's an overrated shooter. He's not a very. He's gotten better from three, but he's kind of like, people assume he's like a dead eye, Klay Thompson-esque shooter from three. He's not. But
he's more of a mid-range guy.
Yeah, he's a great mid-range shooter.
Should we come up with like kind of a slightly patronizing name for a mid? Is he like a mid-range Maury? Mid-range Mikey?
Mid-range Morris.
He's a mid-range Morris.
Your middle name.
My middle name. That's right. Good memory. Yeah.
Mid-range Morris.
He's a bit of a mid-range Morris.
He's a midi.
But here's what I would say. My guess would be part of the reason you don't like him beyond the Kobe thing would be Barkley's your first love with the Suns. And then that next era where you're really latching on and enjoying the way that they play would have been 2005 to about 2010 or 2011, when Nash is the engine and he's running the show, and you're running things really quickly, and you just don't have a player like Booker on that team. Yeah. And so I think stylistically, based on the way that, and I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth here, sir, but like the way that you tend to kind of consume and think about basketball and what you appreciate in basketball as a fan, I don't know that Booker, aka Book, checks a lot of those boxes.
Yeah, I think you're onto something with that. And I appreciate you kind of crystallizing that. And, Chris Paul, he does, he mimics a lot of what Steve Nash does. And I do appreciate Chris Paul's game. I respect it, even though he's the last 4 games. My God, I played him in DFS like 3 out of the last 4 games. I kept thinking like, okay, this is the game where he snaps out of it. And like, he's been burning me every single game. Yeah, man, I don't know. Both those guys are just like, Chris Paul is just kind of, I've talked about it before, but just, he's like the little general out there kind of calling out people, flailing about, just stylistically, his game isn't very pretty. I mean, I do enjoy some of the passing and, obviously he's a floor general. He's a classic point guard. I can appreciate the fundamentals as much as the next guy, right? The footwork, The mid-range game, obviously, when it's on, it's a beautiful thing to watch. But I have come around. You were talking about Booker, the shot making and everything. I've come around a little bit the way he like he'll get close to the rim, but just pull up for those little jumpers,
Mm-hmm.
and they're much they're a higher percentage shot than like pulling up from like just inside the 3-point line, or some guys try to get all the way. Like Donovan Mitchell, like usually tries to get all the way to the hoop every fucking time. I like his game too, but Booker's kind of like, well, I practice this little mid-ranger, kind of like what Tony Parker used to do with that giant killer, kind of the little floater.
Yeah.
Even going back to like Mark Jackson, or even though I hated his game too, but
I think it really is like he's got a sort of versatility to his mid-range game.
Yeah.
Where that is really impressive, and to me it maybe sort of speaks to the evolution of the mid-range game in today's NBA, because I feel like, okay, think about like maybe earlier mid 2000s, Rip Hamilton, you think of him coming off a screen and kind of pulling up, and Rip Hamilton's mid-range game was money. It was great, but like there's something to Book where it feels like the drills that he does when you watch him shoot these shots in games. It's like he's dribbling on in and around both elbows, like almost in circles, and he can just like in practice, and he can just get into his shot from either direction.
Yeah.
And he's just sort of hunting a shot and waiting, and kind of he's willing to sort of keep his dribble there between the basket and the arc in a way that I feel like when we were growing up and when we were in high school and college, that just kind of maybe wasn't the mid-range as much, or it was like, Kobe shoots the like falling away with like three guys in his face, or Rip comes off the screen and then the shot goes up. And Booker does this thing where it's like he keeps his dribble and he's so balanced, and he gets up into a balanced shot. And it's just like, it's a really, maybe I'm not describing it very well, maybe, but it's just like a very, it's kind of a very kind of subtle, nuanced kind of update of the mid-range game, where you kind of feel like he can keep his dribble, and it's not even really about getting to his spot per se, because like the entire area on both sides around the elbow are his spot. And so if he can get up into his motion without someone kind of being there in his space and bothering him too much, you feel like he can make that shot, all the time, basically, if he wants.
Totally. No, you bring a good point. I mean, he's technically, his jump shot, when you really watch it, it is beautiful. It's like a beautiful thing to watch, kind of like Klay Thompson's or Ray Allen's, like it's a textbook kind of jump shot. Sure. And you think about him. Yeah. The Rip Hamilton thing is interesting because you think about him kind of as this like roving, like long distance kind of like shooter. He doesn't have a lot of style. Like you wouldn't see him do like crazy finger rolls or like hook shots or like wrap around kind of things. Like, and he's not a great passer. He's gotten better, but he's like, as evidenced by the last game when Chris Paul was like shut out, he just couldn't really facilitate. I think he had like 8 turnovers, Devin Booker did, or something like that. But no, I'm gonna look at him a little more carefully. I'm gonna see if I might fall in love. You never know. I mean, it could be like a Stockholm syndrome thing where you're just stuck with him. So you gradually you'll start to like realize, oh, he's not that bad. That's an exaggeration. I mean, I should be a huge fan. He's been with the Suns for a while. I've seen him grow up. He doesn't do it for me. I remember the Jason Kidd era of the Suns where Jason Kidd had like dyed blonde hair. I don't know if you remember that. I really love Jason Kidd. Like I think I think you're right. I like distributors more.
Yeah.
I really want to thank you for walking me through this, for indulging me.
Can I ask you a question? I have a question for you.
Sure. And then I have one more for you.
When Booker came out of UK, the player that he reminded me of, and it's not a perfect comparison, but the guy he reminded me of was Clay. And I think we would both agree.
Because they look very similar, right?
Well, I think they're like the same height, and they kind of have the same sort of motion to
Oh
their
no, they do
game.
for sure.
Actually, you know what? They're not the same height. What am I talking about? I think Clay's a little taller.
Clay's
But
like 2 inches taller or something.
yeah, but like there's some similarity there. They're sharpshooters, blah blah blah. My guess is, because I need you to help me sort through this. Like, I still think stylistically they're pretty similar. I mean, Clay's a better two-way player, although Clay has looked kind of old. The Grizzlies series, he's looked a little old, but that's a separate thing. But we'll get to that.
I think next year he'll look more like his former self. I think it
I
takes
hope so.
people like a year to like kind of like I remember with Wes Welker.
Yeah.
Took him like a year. This is football, but like so it's basketball, football cross comparison. But I feel like it usually takes them like a year, except with Durant had a whole year off. And Clay's had 2 years off. I don't know. It's not an exact science, but I would look to next year. But please continue.
I hope you're right. But here's my question. I think we would both agree that even though we recognize all the similarities in their game, we both much prefer watching Clay to Booker.
He's also a much better three-point shooter. Again,
why is that? Do you think it's just down to shooting?
I think his personality. I think Clay is like one of the more likable guys in the NBA. He's one of my favorite players.
He's just a goof.
He's one of our mutual friend Rushi's favorite players. Maybe I think it is his favorite player. He's a goofball, big smoky. There's been so many funny moments. He's just kind of down to earth. He's, meanwhile, Booker is, just he's arrogant. He's in the Mamba school. Him and Kyrie, I guess, was a Mamba guy too. I don't want to. I mean, we can talk about him later.
No, thanks. We don't need to.
Yeah. But no, I think they had similar games. I think with Booker, it's just he did grow. I think it was a 70-point game, in a loss. Just like there's been a lot of things where it's like, well, he's just a chucker.
Yeah.
And I think some of that was unfair because he had Dragon Bender and like these horrible teams, like the worst teams.
Josh Jackson.
You could possibly think of. So those were the dark years, the dark ages, and he kind of persevered through that. Chris Paul has made his life a lot easier, taken away that kind of leadership burden. And I just think it's silly when people were talking about Devin Booker for MVP because Chris Paul is like he's just the more important player on the team. It's not even close. I mean, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of like, I guess you could say he's the jockey riding Devin Booker, if you want to look at it that way.
Okay.
But like he's like the old jockey riding the young stallion, maybe.
Yeah, the young thoroughbred.
But
Clay also plays faster. I think he's just got a quicker release. There's more of a
games. Yeah, Clay's
a little more frantic.
Like off the ball too. He's more off the ball.
Like those classic sort of vintage Warriors runs where they go on a 10-0 run and it's just like boom, 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 and then it's like you look up and all of a sudden they were up by 2 and then they're up by 12. I think part of the strength of that is just the way that like when Steph and Clay get into their shots, the shot goes up quick, right? Yeah. And I feel like it would be really hard for Booker on Golden State to do that, to have that kind of really quick, devastating scoring run. Booker would be like dribbling around, or it would take him a while. And Clay just knows, like, no, shot goes up, right? I'm on the
Warriors motion offense.
Yeah. Totally. So that could be part of it too. And I think that Booker in that motion offense would just it just seems like the ball might. I mean, the Suns move it well, so I don't want to like totally impugn him here, but like it just seems like it wouldn't be as crisp.
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something there. But to shift gears, I'm going to ask you a question. I think I know the answer, but just tell me where you're at right now.
Yeah.
Luka or Dirk, who do you enjoy watching more?
Luka Doncic.
Because you're a Mavs fan. I mean, you're like I think you're a Mavs fan, right? When it comes to NBA, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, if
appreciator.
I'm a Mavs appreciator. Yes, that's a good way to put it.
As Kemp would say.
Well, yeah. Now I'm reluctant to endorse that title. No, to me, it's Dirk, and it's honestly not that close. I'm much more of a Luka respecter than I am like enjoying watching his game. I mean, he's an awesome player.
He complains all the time.
He complains
Jesus
a lot.
Christ.
You know, I don't want to be too revisionist. Like, I mean, Dirk complains some, I think, but like,
he did.
I just like Luka. I mean, I liked Dirk's game more. I thought it was just aesthetically more pleasing. I made reference to this on our text the other day, but it seems to me like this Mavericks team, they got some 3-and-D guys. They got Jalen Brunson. There are guys who are kind of, you mentioned thoroughbreds. You mentioned equines. There are guys who are ready to run, right? They're ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
And
pistoning legs.
Yeah, exactly. And so Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith and Jalen Brunson, Maxi Kleber, you know, so much of the Mavs Sun series has come down to, do the Mavs hit their threes, right? If they hit their threes, they're in it with a chance to win. And if they don't, they can't win.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you, like, Luka just he slows things down. He's very ball dominant. He is a really phenomenal distributor, and he's got so many good skills. But it does seem like sometimes those things look better. I mean, I guess this is the case with all players, Ben, but like, they look a lot better when they're up by 15 instead of down by 15. And so when they're up by 15 and it's all clicking and he's like in his bag, as they say, right? And he's got a mismatch and he's backing someone down, or he's able to draw contact to get to the line or hit his step back three.
Yeah.
Which sometimes seems like a little bit like a hardened travel, but that's fine, right? He hits it and he can make it.
Yeah.
When he does all those things, it's going great when they're up. But when they're down 15 and they need like quick bursts and he's like dribbling for 12 seconds on the clock, I don't think that is the best way to utilize the team they have. And it's not, I'm certainly not saying that, their cast of their roster is like awesome. I think there are several rosters that are left in the playoffs that are better than Dallas's. But
how dare you insult Maxi Kleber?
Well, no, we love Maxi Kleber, German, the
from the same town as Dirk,
German sniper. Is that true?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's amazing. I can't believe I didn't know that.
Yeah, they got that town scouted pretty thoroughly.
Right.
German town.
Only that one area of Germany.
Yeah, just that one area.
But no, I mean, like, I feel like if he played, I mean, this is, we always come back to this, but like, I feel like if Luka just played a little faster, like, he doesn't have to play like Nash, like turbo, and just dribble in circles, which is what Nash would do sometimes. I mean, with a purpose, he would dribble in circles.
He doesn't have the cardio for that.
He doesn't have to probe. He definitely doesn't have the cardio, but he does need to pick it up sometimes, I think, and just give the defense something different to look at, rather than just like dribble, penetrate to the wing, right? I mean, anything where they can get up tempo. And I think what they've shown in their home games this series, these 3 home victories, is that when they get out in transition and hit threes, which really is a hallmark of what the Dirk Mavs did too. And when Finley and Nash were there, they did it well. When Dirk was there and won his title in 2011, they did it well. But getting out in transition and picking up the pace a little bit, I think that helps the team. And I think that really, I think it allows them to get some free looks that they don't always necessarily get in the half court with the way they play. And I mean, maybe what I'm describing is true of any team with transition threes, but it just feels like when this Dallas team gets in the half court, it's like Phoenix is better defensively than Utah was. Jalen Brunson was an absolute beast in the Utah series, in the Jazz series, and I love his game.
Oh yeah.
But he clearly, you know, the Suns are a level higher defensively, and like, he's having to work for his buckets much more in this series than he did. I mean, when Mitchell, and I mean, I love Donovan Mitchell, you know, right? Louisville guy, but like, Mitchell was like a turnstile when he'd be on Brunson, and Brunson could kind of, or when Brunson was on O'Neal, or when Brunson would be on Conley, he could just like get any shot he wanted, it seemed like. And when they put, you know, Cam Johnson or Mikal Bridges or Chris Paul or anybody or Cameron Payne. It just seems like the Suns are doing a really good job bothering Brunson, who was really counted upon in that Jazz series to be the main guy when Luka was out, and then be the very clear secondary scorer when Luka came back. And in this series, Ben, he's just kind of been, I mean, he's had some good games. I don't have his game log in front of me, but like when the Mavs have lost, they've put the clamps on him. And at that point, it's like Luka can get his own shot. If Brunson is kind of shut down, you're depending on those other wings to make threes. And if they can't hit threes or you can't get them open shots, Phoenix is going to win the game by 20.
Yeah. He's come alive the last 4 games, Brunson. I think they shut him down.
The first two.
The first two for sure. Like he was pretty awful. But
do you have his numbers there?
Yeah, the last 4 he's averaging 21 points, 46% shooting, not good from 3. He's like 16%, 17%. So he's gotten better. But,
yeah, that's
definitely
better.
Your point still stands. I mean, they need in this game coming up this weekend, they need Benny Smith and Bullock. Those guys, I love those guys. I love the toughness and the defense. Like Finney Smith can legitimately guard all 4 positions.
He's great.
He's DFS as you named him. Great nickname. Especially for players.
Undrafted guy out of Florida.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done some good drafting.
They have. He and Bullock are both really strong wing defenders. And it seems like I was looking back over the box scores last night, knowing we were going to talk today. It seems like they kind of alternate offensively which one is going to hit threes for the game. And I'm not sure that they've both, but I saw, for example, if you look at last night's, right, like just the disparity in terms of the games in Phoenix and the games in Dallas, like,
oh yeah,
last night, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Bullock, Kleber, and Dinwiddie combined for 13 threes. And I think the most that those 3 had combined for in the previous 5 games was 4.
Wow.
So that's plus 27 just on those 3 guys with threes. Dinwiddie is an interesting player because he's like, they got him in the trade, right? And like, he's like kind of he's a guard who is sort of supposed to be kind of instant offense, but he didn't really seem to be the second option.
He's been off this series. Yeah. He's, I think I honestly don't know what's going to happen in this game. I think the Suns probably end up taking care of him, but there is like, you look at Luka's elimination games, like the stats he's put up, and they're just, I mean, there's only been 3 of them, I think. Mm-hmm. I think including the last one they played, and he's averaging like almost 40 points a game or something.
Yeah, the Clippers game last year.
So it's like Dallas is going to be locked in. I think the Suns probably still take care of him, but if Chris Paul is going to be bothered like this, and this has been, I mean, 4 or 5 games in a row where he's been pretty awful. And they've still been able to win some of those games, especially the ones at home. So they'll probably win, but honestly, man, it doesn't bode well for their playoff future. These playoffs, that is. Yeah. If seeing as it has this much trouble with this Dallas team, because the Dallas team is like Luka is, as you said, it kind of sucks up, all the air out of the team in a way, because he takes a long time to get things going. The dancing with the ball, even though it's kind of fun to watch, is kind of similar to Harden's like lead up to his shot. And I really do think he's almost like gathering a breath. It's like these quick little movements that don't require you to like really let loose. Like we were talking about with Nash, where he would like run around like some marathon, like skinny little marathon runner, like just run around all over the, the half court and then just like throw it under the basket to Amari for a jam. Luka does that sometimes, but I mean, he starts to labor, he gets tired, then he starts jacking threes. He didn't, I don't think in the fourth quarter of last year's playoffs, I saw some chart where it was like he wears down in the fourth quarter. He starts to, like in the first half and the third quarter, he scores a lot, but in the fourth quarter, he scores his least amount of points, something like that.
I think that was a big issue for him against the Clippers last year in that Clippers.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think about that he went toe to toe with Kawhi and Paul George 2 years in a row.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for Kawhi, putting down 27 or whatever he did, or I'm sorry, 47, that one game where he had the game of his life.
Yeah, he was turbo mode.
Yeah, he really was. He was it was like NBA Street, NBA Jam level. But they would have won that series possibly. And that's why I'm so intrigued by what could happen. I mean, I'm a Suns fan. It'd be cool for them to win. But as I said, I don't really like this team very much. And also I really do enjoy this Mavericks team. So the part of me that's just an NBA lover is like, oh, I don't really care who wins. I would like to see the Mavs win almost. But the 75% other part of me who's a Suns fan is like, it'd be nice for the Suns to get a championship. And but I'm not one of those people who's like Chris Paul, he deserves it and all this stuff, because he's a dirty player and
we don't like watching.
I'm gonna take my personal shots. He's a dirty player. I'm just gonna say it right now.
By the way, are you with me, Dirk over Luka stylistically?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I was curious what your thoughts were. I don't think we've really talked about Luka in detail.
Well,
so for me, it's like the jump shots, the Dirk, just the beautiful fadeaway jumpers and his patented jump shot with the leg kicking out. And just I think Luka's personality on the floor is just constantly complaining and smirking and stuff. And call me old school, I don't really I like it in spurts, but if it's all the time, it's come on, man, stop complaining. When he starts complaining, it takes him out of the game and he starts to play worse. So
it is definitely more grating. And he is definitely more brash. There's no getting around that.
Here's a humble, just good
lunch
guy.
Pail.
Yeah. Oh yeah, babe.
Some
German lunch
worst.
pail.
Yeah, some worst.
Yeah. Sounds delicious.
Some worst in that pail. Nice schnitzel, a panade fried meat.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, a little wiener schnitzel. Some gravy, hot summer day in Dallas. Who wouldn't love it? No, but so here's what I was thinking about, right? I was thinking about something to consider for this series. So this, to me, Ben, is one of those series we get them. I don't think we get them every year. I think we get them every few years, where we're going into Game 7 Sunday. I agree with you. I think the Suns take care of business. And part of the reason that I'm inclined to say that is because this has not been there really hasn't been a particularly close game in this series. Some of them have been, you look at the final score, I think the first couple, I think maybe the Suns won by 7 in Game 1 or Game 2. Most of these games, they have not really been in doubt in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game. And to me, I think this kind of series more than any underscores the importance of home court advantage. I think it's easy to say, well, the most important series of home court advantage is the 1 versus the 2, or the 2 versus the 3. For example, Nets Bucks last year, where the teams seemed really evenly matched. But I kind of was thinking about it today, and it's when they're evenly matched, I actually think that sort of makes home court less important, because it means that the talent levels are such that, Giannis and company, Middleton and Drew Holiday and whichever Lopez twin or both Lopez twins, however many Lopez's there are, can go into Brooklyn and win. And Kyrie and the cadaver of James Harden and KD can go into Milwaukee and win. But this kind of series, Phoenix, Dallas, where it just, you look at all these games and you feel like, with a couple of exceptions, the road team just like starts off on its heels and on the back foot.
Yep.
That's the kind of series to me where it's like home court is so important, because the weird thing about this series, I think in that regard, is if Game 7 were in Dallas, even though I think Phoenix is a better team and I think they have a better roster, I probably would pick Dallas, because Dallas just looks like a better team. They look like a clearly better team at home, and Phoenix looks like a clearly better team when they're at home, and Phoenix gets to play more home games than Dallas does. And that's not the most high level analysis, but this is the kind of series to me where home court advantage is key, because all you have to do is just win your home games if they're all blowouts. And the fact that the Suns go on the road and don't look so sharp, that doesn't quite matter as much.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting take. I mean, it's yeah, you say it's simple, but it's in a way it's a next level in a way, because like a lot of like the Celtics Bucks series, for instance, it's like home court doesn't matter as much. They're like the Bucks have won twice in Boston, I believe.
Yeah. They're 2-1 in Boston.
Yeah, so it's like, and those teams like are playing crazy hard, and it's a different type of series. It is. You're right. I think there is like kind of series where home court matters a bit more. But the one thing I've been thinking about, though, I was thinking about this watching the Philly fans boo the 76ers like over and over again, even during the Toronto series, which, my heart goes out to Dan, but it did kind of crack me up a little bit as a indifferent observer. The pressure that's going to mount, though, on Phoenix as the number 1 seed going against this kind of scrappy Dallas team, obviously with like a huge star in Luka, and some would say the best player in the series.
Sure.
They're still scrappy. They still like they have this like 5-out offense and everything.
Phoenix is supposed to win. We can just say that.
Yeah. So like the pressure of Phoenix losing this Game 7 is so great that I could see if a couple little things go wrong, then you start seeing the shaky hands, you start seeing the flop sweat. Because like in the last year's playoffs, they never really encountered that. Like, in fact, the moment they were faced with the adversity, they kind of folded like really quickly. And I hope that doesn't happen, but I really do think they're going to win this game. But crazier shit's happened. And,
I'm with you. Like, the recipe for that is, the Mavs hit some early threes. Yeah. Chris Paul's like trying to draw fouls from 3/4 court for no reason, and the ref is like, "Go fuck yourself." We're not.
I'm telling you, he gets inside of his own head sometimes with these flops and these foul baiting things.
And then he gets so mad at the refs. He's like, why didn't you call that? And it's just like, dude,
did you see
you're
him
like one of the best point guards of all time. Please,
yeah, I know.
Stop.
It's just like play fucking basketball.
Yeah, it's
Did you see him with Jose Alvarado? That was so entertaining.
Yeah, it
was so funny. Like, it was just he was really annoying the hell out of him. And then he like clubs Herb Jones in the face.
Yep.
Just the dirtiest shit ever.
He swiped his hand like across Brunson's face the other night.
Yeah,
Did you see that? Like, and then they somehow didn't call a flagrant one, which I thought surely they would have.
I mean, what he's doing as he's a small guy and he's like dominating in a sport full of like really tall guys. So what he's doing is incredible. I mean, he's got like sneaky athleticism because he's so quick, and he's just like his quick twitch.
Yeah,
things are just kind of incredible. You don't even
realize.
He's
a water bug basketball player. We've never mentioned that in.
I mean, that's perfect.
Basketball, right?
He's in his heyday, especially like he was super fast. Like he was quick and he was like fast. As he in the canter back and forth on the full court. But I mean, he's a legend. He's going to be a Hall of Fame guy. The problem is right now, Reggie Bullock is faster than he is. He's taller. Yep. He's playing amazing defense. And if they shut him out completely at home, they have a shot. They shut him out the last 4 games. Even when Phoenix has won, even that blowout, like Chris Paul wasn't really involved. So I am super intrigued. And, this is going to be dated by the time, our friends hear this, it'll be dated. Mm-hmm. But we'll see what happens, man. Like I'm intrigued.
Here's what I will also add on to that, though, okay? Because I picked the Warriors to go to the finals and beat the Suns, okay? I think that the Warriors are going to take care of business tonight and close out. And by the way, if they don't, they have no one to blame but themselves. If they can't
If they
close
don't,
out,
I think they're going to lose. They'll lose the series
Game
because I
7.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, and some people have had this take. I think Memphis is a better team without Ja right now. I really do think that.
Really?
It's
Interesting.
fucking crazy to say that out loud, but like the record, they were like 20-2 in the regular season. They
Without
move the
him?
ball. Yeah, they move the ball super fast. They like play together more. They have better defense. Like he's kind of a liability on defense. Tyus Jones is really fucking good. Like he should be a starting point guard now after this season. He could be a starting point guard in the league, and he just like doesn't make mistakes. Like a lot less turnovers, a lot less just like driving into the lane and then jumping in the air and like having nowhere to go with the ball and just either getting blocked, missing the shot, or just throwing it away. Kind of things that Ja does. I like Ja a lot. I'm not hating at all. I just think the execution is just at a higher level, and in the playoffs, I think it's more effective because there's less turnovers. You know, they're just getting rid of the ball quickly. They're making fast decisions. They're sharing the ball a lot more. Steven Adams, the glue, the revelation of having him in the lineup, just the great passing from the high post. And I don't know, man. I think maybe it's just for this series. I'm not saying like they should trade Ja or anything like that. I think just for right now in this situation, even in the last game, like Golden State barely beat the Grizzlies. Then they get destroyed. Now they're coming back. Talk about some pressure. Like we've
No,
seen
the pressure is for sure on the Warriors.
Yeah.
But what I guess the follow-up I have to that, because
they're going to probably destroy the Grizzlies.
Well, I honestly hadn't considered that they were better with Ja. They certainly looked better without him. They certainly looked better without him when they beat Gold State, and they were up by like 50. They were literally up by 50 points in the second half. But like,
that's embarrassing, man.
The question I would have, though, I guess, would be, think about game 1, okay, where the Warriors win by 1. So if you have a game like that tonight again, and that was kind of what game 4 was like too, to be fair.
Yeah, and you have like Dylan Brooks trying to take over.
That's where it gets to be a little tricky. Like I think, minutes 1 through like 42, I could see them humming well without Ja. But when you get to the end and it's like, okay, Kyle Anderson's taking the shot, it's like, maybe, I mean, for all the things that Ja does to sort of be ball dominant, I do think there are probably situations in that second half of the fourth quarter where you kind of just need him to be star. No, but look, you know what, Ben? If the Grizzlies win by 15, then it doesn't matter. They don't need, or if they win by 50, then it's not going to matter.
No, I think you make a good point. I think he's you need that closer, and he can get a bucket, and like in the Timberwolves series, he had some amazing clutch shots. Even in the Warriors series, I think he had a blow up game.
Yeah,
he had like 47 or something.
I believe that's right. Yeah,
that was insane.
Game 2, he basically
incredible.
Just willed the team to win by himself. Now, but here, let me talk about the Warriors for a minute, because to me, the Warriors are the official team of guys in their 30s, of old millennials. I think they're the official team of people who tried to tell themselves, and I'll leave it up to the listener and to my co-host to judge whether it's a lie or not, but who try to tell themselves that 2017 wasn't that long ago, right? Because like that's when the Warriors were humming, and there's something kind of almost reassuring and fulfilling about the fact that something from 2017 or 2016 can still be kind of humming in 2022, just as it were, right? Or just as it was
5 years ago. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
And that's the thing. It kind of wasn't that long ago, but then it's like, go through everything else in your life, your clothes, your songs, what your email, what like your favorite websites may have looked like, what articles may have been talking about. 2017 is not that recent in some ways. And
it's a long time ago.
I think when I watched them play the Nuggets,
the whole pandemic away.
Exactly, for sure.
Pandemic.
I think when I watched them play the Nuggets, I was like, oh yeah, I mean, this is like picking up right where it left off. The only reason we didn't get this in the regular season is because Steph was hurt, and then Clay didn't come back till the middle of the year, and Draymond missed a bunch of time, and they're trying to kind of like work in Jordan Poole with all of his offensive talent. And you got guys like glue guys like Gary Payton II, the Mitten, and guys like Andrew Wiggins, who is more of a glue guy in some ways than I ever thought he would be. Although, when he plays Memphis, sometimes I'm kind of like, okay, I don't really know the series for Andrew Wiggins. But here's what I would add to that. I feel like that vibe for me has gone away a little bit in this Memphis series. And the Warriors have not shot well. They've looked a little bit old at times, Ben. I hate to sound like Stephen A. or Mad Dog Russo, but they've looked a little bit old, Mike. They've looked a little bit old at times, and they really seem to be bothered by the athleticism and the youth and the length of what the Grizzlies throw at them sometimes. And the reason I would bring that up to tie it back to kind of our initial sort of topic would be, I feel like the Suns match up better with Golden State than I thought they would have a couple weeks ago. If you think about the lineups, if they're throwing out like Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, and they have Ayton on the floor, and they're going to put Crowder out there to like muck things up, they just have a bunch of lineups, I think, that if Memphis, a very young and also kind of brash team, Memphis whines a little bit too much for my taste sometimes. But like
the whole bit about John Morant's knee, all that stuff, that was so overblown.
Ridiculous. I'm with you.
The coach still saying that it was because of
that coach is like, it's like, all right, dude, it's fine, Taylor.
Jesus Christ, man, it's embarrassing.
Calm down, right? And like, you don't need to bend the knee.
Tinfoil hat.
The Warriors, but it's just like it's a little much. But what I would say is, if the Warriors are having those kinds of issues with the Grizz, I don't know why it would be different with Phoenix, because Phoenix has those sort of long athletes and they have those wing players, and they're also just a more experienced version. They're not exactly like the Grizzlies, but the things that the Grizzlies do well, and the things that have given Golden State issues in the series, I feel like Phoenix can maybe not replicate it 100%, but they can put guys out there that are going to give the Warriors issues, where it's like, if they're playing Steph and Clay and Draymond and Jordan Poole, and then like pick your fifth. Well, Jordan Poole is not a good defender. Clay, Wiggins, like you said, I mean, Wiggins maybe sure, right? Yeah. But Clay, this is like, this is the series where it's been like, oh shit, Klay Thompson hasn't played basketball. He hasn't played meaningful basketball in like 3 years almost, right? And it looks like it. And so it's not fair to hold him to the standard of like 2018 Klay, but that's kind of what the Warriors need him to be. So I'm not saying I would change my pick, but I felt Warriors over Suns. I felt good about that pick in April, and I do not feel as good about it now if that matchup happens.
Yeah. Well, I think you make good points. The only thing I would say is if Golden State can get by the Grizzlies, which we both think is a good chance that's going to happen.
Think they will,
I mean, the Grizzlies, they do pose some real problems for Golden State, because like Looney is their only real big. And so Draymond trying to like box out Steven Adams, just not going to happen. I mean, he's like one of the best rebounders in the league probably, because he's just glued, as I said, and he's just a good rebounder. He's enormous. But if they can sneak by, I just personally, like anecdotally, I haven't looked at the stats, but it seems like Phoenix does have trouble with Draymond kind of players, and he's kind of one of one in a way. But Draymond has not played well this series. Like, I think just the height of Memphis and kind of like the versatility of Jaren Jackson, just he's also getting older, like you mentioned. Like he's looked older in the series for sure. I don't know if he's injured or what it is, but he's like, you haven't seen that like classic Draymond game with like, 9 points, 17 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals. Like you haven't seen this like crazy popcorn stat line that you usually see when Draymond is like clicking, And part of that is because, like you said, Clay isn't like on fire. Poole's kind of faded since that jaw thing. I feel like it kind of fucked with his head. So he's kind of faded a little bit. He might bounce back. We'll see. But I do think if in that Phoenix Golden State matchup, just to play devil's advocate to what you said, I do think because like in the past, Phoenix has had issues with Draymond. Like I don't know if it's because Ayton just isn't as ferocious and he's not as maybe a good of a rebounder as Draymond is or whatever. But like you can see it now kind of too with the 5-out offense that the Mavericks are running. And if, Golden State could run that like on turbo, as you said, with like all these shooters and Draymond, obviously isn't a shooter, but he could just, if he could just hit like 1 3 a game, it would go so far. But he is like not even shooting now, which is a whole other thing we could talk about. But I do think that could pose some problems because like the shooting of Golden State, if they go small, do that like DEFCON 5, that new lineup that they're running out there, I do think that could pose some problems for Phoenix because you can see it in some of these Dallas games. Ayton is just kind of he's playing well, he's getting his points, but they're drawing him out of the paint. And you could say, well, Draymond can't shoot threes, all his other things, but Draymond's out there like passing. You got to like pay some attention to him. So I think in their past matchups, he has been an issue for the Suns. So I don't know who would win. I don't know who would win that series. Just off the top of my head, I'd probably go with Phoenix, but
it's tough.
It's tough, man. It's tough, yeah, because Golden State has looked really weird these last couple games, and
very weird. I agree.
I don't know exactly what's going on.
No, I know what you're saying too. Ayton is more. I mean, like he's such a physical beast, but there is that little bit of finesse to his game that I feel like guys like that in the last 5 or 7 years, Draymond just eats those guys up, right?
Oh yeah,
Draymond, like he fucks with Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan so much in ways that were like you feel like he gets the better of them, even though they have 6 inches on him when they're against each other in a playoff game. Yeah, I think Draymond beyond the fact that he looks a little older and he's coming off injuries, they're throwing Jaren Jackson Jr. at him. They're throwing an athletic guy like Brandon Clark at him. They can put
they're not even guarding him sometimes because he doesn't shoot ever.
Yeah.
And they're just guarding everybody else with basically 5 guys.
Right.
And so like they're telling it now Mike Brown, who's suddenly tasked with winning this playoff series when he's not that good of a coach, really, in my opinion. But what do I know? But he's telling Draymond to shoot, which I think is smart because, in big playoff games, Draymond has shot the ball decently well. I think you probably remember that Game 7 against the Cavs when he had like 35 points.
Yeah, he was their best offensive player.
He was like easily the best player on that team that game, maybe in the whole game. And I think he's gonna turn back the clock, at least for this
one of these games.
Yeah, I think he's got to be more aggressive. Just he's got to be active on offense, except he just wants. Basically, you can tell what he wants to do. He just wants to pass, and that's it. Like he never wants to shoot. It's so obvious. So just a little bit of shooting, could go a long way. But man, these playoffs have been highly entertaining. So I just hope we get that matchup. If the Grizzlies do somehow sneak by, I just think it won't be as high stakes. Like it won't be as much history.
Sure.
And they'll lose. I think the Grizzlies would lose to the Suns pretty handily.
I think so too.
Golden State is just not taking this team seriously, and
it's like they're in half speed, but then it's like you watch it more, and it's like the larger the sample size gets, it's like, are they at half speed or is this their speed? And I'm just in denial that they don't have that gear still, and that's a weird kind of thing to see them in because you just kind of are waiting for them to kind of pull away and go on some of these spurts and to be able to get these stops the way that they have when they could play Iguodala and Draymond at the same time, or when they could play Draymond and Bogut at the same time, or when Clay was, Right. But I mean, like, in the past, like when they could put them on the floor, and it was like if you had prime Clay and Draymond and Iggy or Bogut on the floor, it's like forget about it. You got 3 defensive plus players on, and you got Steph as a dead eye. Like they're going to beat you on both ends.
It's so true, man. Yeah,
but here,
Clay's not there all the way, and then Poole's not that good of a defender right now. So.
And I hope Clay gets there. A little part of me is like a little iffy on it, Ben, because he's 32, and like I think he can get back there, but also like he's gonna be 33, and then it's like you think about age 33, and can someone get back to a level? I hope he can. I hope he can. I would like
don't
to
want him to revert into like you don't want him to regress into like Kyle Korver-esque just spot up shooter.
Hopefully not. That would be very depressing. I want to. Can we close for just for a few minutes with some Giannis gushing?
Yes, let's gush.
'Cause one thing that you told me last year, we did a couple podcasts in the playoffs. I think we did 3 or 4. I remember a lot of talk about Red Velvet. We talked a lot about the Hawks Sixers, the Hawks just kind of like stumbling and staggering their way to a Eastern Conference Finals appearance, which was incredible. I think we had a pod like in the middle of the Suns Bucks series, and then we never quite I don't think we ever were able to reconvene after Giannis's 50-point monster closeout game to win the finals. But something that you said during one of those podcasts, I don't remember which one it was when we were recording. You talked about how you said, when I take a step back and think about the whole league, I realized that I just don't like that many players, right? And that has really stuck with me because when I go down the lists of players and when I look at these matchups, that's kind of how I feel too. Like when I was going through the first round, okay. And by the way, don't misunderstand
me. Hate to say it.
Well, but hold on. I think I kind of agree with you is what I'm saying. Like, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying I despise players on the level of like Kobe or Dwight Howard, or Harden, who I just cannot stand watching. Yeah. But like you go down the list, and I'm like, all right, Suns, okay, Booker and Paul. Yeah, they're all right. I mean, I don't love either of their games. I'm kind of like you. I like Aiden. Aiden's not a superstar.
I like
whatever,
Aiden
right?
too. Yeah, I
Pelicans. Ingram is fine. I like Zion. Whatever. Sure, I guess.
I like the Pelicans.
Yeah, I mean, no, I like them, but like, I don't know that I would say I love Brandon Ingram's game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're not a stan. You're not a stan.
Ja, the idea of Ja, I respect Ja. I love Ja's story.
The concept.
I watch him, and I don't know. Sometimes it's like not quite my cup of tea stylistically, but he's fine, right? But I'm not like a Ja, zealot or anything, right? That Wolves team don't like watching Karl Anthony Towns play at all.
He's like one of my least favorite players.
Yeah,
the exasperation on his face after like
speaking of whiners,
every single time something goes against him, like the level of persecution that he envisions for himself is like just off the charts. Like I've never seen somebody whine and bitch. And it's an epidemic going throughout the league. And I think nobody likes to watch it. I think everybody makes fun of the players for it. It's just like, it's so annoying, but he is like on the Mount Rushmore of just exasperated looks on their face. And it doesn't help that he has kind of a high pitched voice. And it's just, he is so annoying. Like I can't fucking stand him. I used to kind of like him because playing DFS, he's usually like a good mid option. He's not too expensive and he can go off, but he's like, anyway. And he also said he's the best shooting big man of all time, which is a complete slap in the face of Dirk.
Ridiculous statement.
The man has done nothing at all. I mean, go through Brandon Roy, Kobe Lakers, the young Thunder squad,
and LeBron and Wade,
and win a championship. And then you can start talking about yourself as
he didn't even win a playoff series.
Has he? Shit. He hasn't done anything, man.
So he's whatever. Anthony Edwards. I mean, I don't know enough about it. I need to see more. Okay.
Everybody loves him.
Warriors. All right. I love Steph and Clay. Fine. I cop to that. we might veer here. I mean, Jokic is great. He's awesome. I respect his game. I don't like watching him play. I just don't.
You don't like Jokic because of that nasty foul.
No, it's not even that. Look, no, it's fine. He plays tough and hard nosed. Yeah. That I don't mind. And he fouled like campaign, I think, in that. And it doesn't. Who cares?
A lot of people are calling him Fat Boy now, like online. People are calling him Fat Boy.
I don't like watching him or Embiid. I just don't like watching those big guys who operate like that.
I like watching Jokic. I appreciate Embiid's game because he's so enormous and he's so skilled. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I see what you're saying about Jokic.
So and then it's like then the last group in Dallas, the last pairing in the West was Utah Dallas. Okay, I like Donovan Mitchell because he's a Louisville guy, and I also like watching him play. And
Miami. You talk about Miami?
Well, I'm in the West.
I see.
Luka, he's fine. I mean, I like the Mavs. I don't really love watching Luka play, but he's whatever, right? Other side of
too much of Harden, who you've seen way too much of.
Yeah, no, thank you. Milwaukee played Chicago. Excuse me. No, let me go to the 1 seed. Miami played Atlanta. Don't really like watching Jimmy Butler at all. Don't really like watching Kyle Lowry at all. I kind of like Trae Young, but he's a little annoying too. I wouldn't say I'm a Trae Young stan. The Celtics kind of annoy me. Don't really like Tatum's game. He's fine. Jaylen Brown, I respect him. I don't like watching him play. And then the Nets.
You sound like a college basketball fan. That's what you are.
I know. But like this is. I have to blame you for part of this, Ben, because you put this in my head. Like I don't like any players, and then I went down the list, and I was like, I don't think I like many players either. Right? KD, I still love. I always love watching KD, although he had a terrible
I like KD too, but he
was bad against Boston.
He's been bad, and also like his online presence when he starts calling himself the God. He's been calling himself the God.
Yeah, no, I could do without that.
Dude, just
calm down. Man. Right.
You got Kyrie calling people peons. Yeah, like he's like some 14th century English.
That's actually a little funny though. Like
it is, but it's like so arrogant. It is funny. You're right, but it's like the most fucking arrogant thing. Calling reporters peons.
Yeah.
When you're like this little like snot nosed like 26-year-old like went to school for 1 year, like went to Duke for 1 year. You think you're like some boy genius, and you're really not. Like you're not.
Oh, you're sorry. You're talking about Kyrie now. I was talking about KD. I was talking about.
Oh no, I'm talking about Kyrie. KD's cool. Like I like KD.
Yeah, I was saying KD. No, I don't like Kyrie for everything you said. I just can't separate how obnoxious he is off the court at this point from his game. It's okay. So it's those guys. Then I love Giannis and I love the Bucks.
I don't see
Bulls, how anyone I don't care about. I don't want to watch Zach LaVine play. I don't want to watch DeMar DeRozan play.
You don't want to give Zach LaVine a max contract?
Not so much.
5 years,
like Harden and Embiid with that series. No, thank you. The Raptors. I actually kind of do like Siakam, and I kind of do like.
Scotty Barnes.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough of Barnes, but yeah, I like.
I fucking love the Raptors. I am
Van Vliet. I
close
love
to jumping on the bandwagon. Honestly,
nice.
I'm gonna buy myself a Raptors hat. It's in the queue.
I love Van Vliet, but here's my point. When you come with stars, okay. And by the way, I would add to that group. I don't know that I would say Lakers LeBron. I liked Cleveland LeBron. There's a lot of extracurricular stuff with LeBron. I understand that makes hard to appreciate sometimes. But on the court, I still like his games sometimes. I love Damian Lillard's games, though he is not on a playoff team. But that's my point, Ben. Like, if I really go to like all-star caliber players who I'm like, I really enjoy watching these players play. The list is like Steph, Clay, Donovan Mitchell, Damian Lillard, LeBron, and Giannis. That's a group of 6, and I don't know how far. KD, excuse me, 7. That's 7. All right. I don't know how far beyond that I'd really be willing to go right now. Where it's like,
Andre Drummond?
Andre Drummond. Yeah, sorry, Andre Drummond 8. I don't know how far I'd be willing to go beyond that at this point. Like, I guess Trae Young, maybe, but again, there's just some stuff with Trae Young where I'm like, sometimes he just takes these like 35-foot shots, and I'm like, no, dude, this is not the shot right now. Of course, when they go in,
sometimes you mean like every game,
like every game, right? Yeah. But with all that in mind, okay, Giannis being just among my favorite players, really among my favorite athletes right now. You know, you look at this series and it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. There have been multiple twists. You know, neither of us, I don't think, would be shocked if Boston went in there and beat Milwaukee tonight and forced a game 7.
No.
But I think what is just so clear in this series, and it is such a reminder of it, is that, and you know, I'm not exactly breaking any news here, but Giannis is the best player on the planet for me, and he might not win MVP. There's all these other things that go in MVP. He wasn't healthy. The Bucks didn't do well. I understand all that, right? So this is not me campaigning for him to win MVP. But if you look at these rosters and look at the way these teams are set up and who is getting real minutes and in these rotations for these first 5 games, Ben, the Celtics are just better. They have a better roster. They have a better team. And they have a better roster, and it is absolutely ridiculous in an impressive and positive way that the Bucks are winning this series. And even though he hasn't been lights out offensively every game, it is a credit to number 34 because this dude plays hard. You know, we talk about this epidemic of complaining all the time. Giannis never complains. Right?
He might give like a weird look, but he doesn't like do what Luka does and like just keep bitching,
not even close, right?
Yeah,
not even close to baseline of what a star player elsewhere around the league does.
Yeah,
and he's just such a force defensively, right? It's like, go ahead, you want to give the defensive player of the year to Marcus Smart? Great. You watch Marcus Smart and Giannis on the court in the same series repeatedly, and it's like
Drew Holiday too.
Man. If you want to say that Marcus Smart is the defender to fear more, and I mean I know that's not really what people are saying, but like you just kind of realize like, okay, he won this award and that's fine, but much like the case with MVP, I would say it's the case with the defensive player of the year. Giannis just sort of reminds you kind of the way that LeBron used to in like the early 2010s and late 2000s. Like, look, I may not win this or that award, but when I turn it on, there are very few people who are on my level, if anyone. And I just think it's incredible to consider that this guy could be about to beat Boston with the things working against him. And I really didn't, I'll be honest, and I've learned my lesson, right? Because I think if the Bucks, I'll just say it right now, I think if the Bucks win this series and get past Boston, I think they're going to repeat because I am done. I am done. I'm done. DONE, done picking against Giannis. And I thought you were
going to say you're done with Eric Spoelstra. I thought, tired of looking at his smirks.
Yeah, no. He is a Hall of Fame smirker though. But I'm just done picking against him, man. And like if they get Middleton back tonight or in Game 7, or if they get him back in the Eastern Conference Finals.
You get the earliest like next finals. Series probably.
Yeah, then that's a whole other thing to throw in the mix. But this dude is just like so unbelievably good and relentless, and you know he rises to the moment in ways that you watch Harden not do it, you watch Embiid not do it, you watch Paul struggle to do it at times. You watch the Warriors kind of go up and down. You watch someone like Jokic put up good stats, but then like get blown out. I mean, I know he's missing players, but you know, Jokic, like this is the second straight year he's been beaten handily in the playoffs. And then
you cannot stress enough the disparity in like the roster he's on compared to like Embiid's roster, where they have, you know, borderline all-star Tobias Harris, like up-and-comer Maxey, and Harden at times during the year. Before that, it was like Curry and Drummond. I mean, like Jokic's roster is like bare bones. Like if Jokic was on, honestly, I think if Jokic was on the 76ers, I think they would beat Miami. I definitely do.
So look, I hear what you're saying. So you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not saying that like he should have won those series. I'm just saying that like, you know, I wouldn't say Giannis's roster with Milwaukee's roster with no Middleton is great.
Yeah, but Drew Holiday, I was going to touch on him.
He's good. He's up and down, but
you're right. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying because like Giannis is. I think he's far and away the best player in the league. Like I don't think Jokic is on his level right now, not even close. But just because Giannis, this two-way impact and like the pure athleticism and as I said, relentlessness is just fucking crazy. It's like, but Drew Holiday is the best defensive guard in the league, and when his shots hitting, he can be like his 3-pointer, like it was the other night, like kind of, I think he was like 4 for 7 or something.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't shoot a good percentage these days because he's taking like 29 shots a game because they don't have a lot of other creators, but he is like, he's an all-star player, like quality, like point guard, so, and what he does defensively.
No, that's true. And the
incredible.
Denver doesn't have anybody like that with Murray and
no, man. I mean,
MPJ being hurt.
They got backups basically around him right now.
Let's put it this way, okay?
Except for Aaron Gordon, maybe.
If you're drafting the rosters of the Bucks and the Celtics, okay? Out of the first 10 guys, how many of them are Milwaukee?
I would say
you go Giannis 1, Tatum 2.
Jaylen
Brown 3, probably, right?
I would say Drew. Then I would say, yeah. I mean, no, I agree with you. I think that the
Horford would be over most Bucks players.
The Celtics roster is definitely better than, if with Chris Middleton in there, I think it would probably just be, I mean, maybe Bobby Portis sneaks in at the 10th spot, maybe, so maybe at the most like 4 out of the 10. But no, I mean, I agree with you. I think the Celtics roster is better.
Yeah.
Giannis is just, I feel like I'm watching like a young Will Chamberlain or something, like the way seriously, it's like,
no, yeah,
he's not.
Never saw Will play, but knowing what I know of him, I
just seeing the grainy footage and like seeing his body type and everything, that's all I got to work with. I mean, obviously I haven't poured over the reels, haven't gotten, watched all those like games from the 60s or whatever. But no, he looks otherworldly, like Wilt did. Kind of, he's over 7 feet tall, but he can handle the ball. He can, he's super quick. He's a great defender, great shot blocker. No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I just got to say that I've loved Drew Holiday's performances so far. Even when he can't shoot, he
brings it defensively.
The way he plays is so funny too. He's kind of just like very under control, like herky jerky. I think it was mentioned on another podcast I listened to, but kind of like a herky jerky style, like, and he just, the way he shoots is very kind of in control, measured, kind of textbook. So I enjoy watching him play.
I think the way that he and Jalen Brunson sort of move remind me a lot of one another, although Drew is obviously light years ahead of Brunson on the defensive end, but they kind of have that, they sort of put you to sleep or lull you to sleep with some of the moves that they can make.
Yeah, but great footwork.
Good footwork. And the thing too, I would say, is like, and I was thinking about this, watching Giannis. Now, see, I say all this, and now if they go out and lose tonight and then they lose to Boston in Game 7, then, the narrative changes.
It's still all true, though. I mean, Giannis is still going to play well. I mean, even if they lose, they're at a disadvantage without Middleton.
Yeah. Well, watching him, though, it's like
and by the way, one quick thing. Rob Williams, they keep saying like Rob Williams is out, is a big Time Lord is a big deal. He destroys Rob Williams. Like Rob Williams cannot guard him.
That much of an impact.
He has not been an impact player in the series. So please continue.
The guy who's bothered him the most, which makes no sense to me,
Grant Williams,
is I think Horford has bothered him the most.
It's true.
Which is very weird, because you would think, given Horford's build and age, you would think that like Giannis would just laugh in Horford's face. I mean,
it's all relative. He's still like he scored 40 points twice in the series.
Exactly,
so
for sure.
He's still cooking everybody, but Horford has
absolutely. But watching Al Horford like get around Giannis in that Game 5 or whatever it was.
That was
Game 4. Excuse me, Game 4, when the Bucks had the chance to go up 3-1 and Horford was out of his mind. By the way, I don't really like. I actually loathe the Celtics. So I'm making it sound like I like the Celtics. I do not like them. I want the Bucks to win, but I've just been surprised at that. But it reminds me a little bit. Okay, and you may not like this comparison. I don't know, but like thinking about the way that Giannis and that team just like tore Chicago limb from limb. Like Chicago got one game, and then Milwaukee was like, okay, now we're ready, we're done. It really reminded me a little bit, and I kind of wonder if the way Giannis, especially let's say if he repeats, or even if he gets to the finals this year, and let's say they lose to the Suns, and the Suns get revenge, or the Warriors win, it almost feels like it could be what it might have felt like had LeBron stayed in Cleveland the first time. Are you there? I think you froze. Oh. You there? Hello?
Frozen?
Yeah, you're frozen. Right. Sorry. Where did I cut out?
Oh, it said my internet connection is unstable, but
okay.
Am I back?
What was the last thing you heard me say?
I can cut this part out.
Yeah, what was the last thing you heard me say?
I heard you're talking about how it could be as if LeBron never left Cleveland.
Yeah, right. Because like if you think about those late 2000s years before LeBron joined the Heat, obviously, look, he never got to the finals. Excuse me, he got to the finals once, and the Spurs kicked their ass. But LeBron was like 23 or whatever, and his team. Speaking of awful teams, he like dragged the worst possible team, and then Tim Duncan and Tony Parker just kicked the shit out of that team in the finals. Like the most aggressive 4-game sweep I think you may ever see in the finals.
Yeah, that
like
was
this side of
true.
Lakers Nets or Lakers Lakers who would that
that was quite that was just a thrashing. It was
really bad. But so just the idea that like those players step on the floor with Giannis, and this is speaking of old man takes here, there's just like it just felt like watching them play Chicago. Grayson Allen, 27-year-old Giannis. Grayson Allen plays better. All these dudes play better, and Giannis is like the centerpiece, and they play for him and they believe in him. And LeBron changed the narrative all around when he decided to go to Miami. No one disputes that. But it feels a little bit like the way that dudes would play for and around LeBron when he was on Cleveland pre-2011. Maybe a little bit when he went back to Cleveland too, I would say. Because, obviously, he has Kyrie and Kevin Love that second time. But the first time around, he doesn't have – he's got Boobie Gibson. He's got Zydrunas Ilgauskas. They're fine players. They're not like mega stars. But I just kind of almost wonder if we could see that. And if someone like LeBron – if Giannis, let's say Giannis reels off 3 or 4 titles here in the next 6-7 years, if LeBron looks at that and maybe silently wonders, if I had just stayed, could I have just done what Giannis did in Milwaukee? Because it's like you look at these teams and these rosters and these matchups, and you kind of feel like sometimes Milwaukee is outgunned. Kind of how I felt like Cleveland was outgunned with LeBron in those early young LeBron years. And then it's like, yeah, but they have Giannis. Like Cleveland had 25-year-old LeBron, where it's like, yeah, the Pistons are better. The Magic do seem like they're better. The Celtics do seem like they're better. Now, of course, some of those teams beat LeBron, to be fair. But you just you give the Bucks a chance because Giannis is that good.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's I
totally
love this. I love to gush about Giannis. He's just I don't see anybody cannot like him. Like Skip Bayless is on this new thing about he hates Giannis. I hate watch sometimes. I watch his takes sometimes, and he hates Giannis. And I think he's just trying to he's like, okay, this Giannis guy is going to be around for a while. LeBron's getting older. I need to switch over. And that's kind of like, I'm not the first person to think of that. I mean, that's been kind of, hovering around.
I need a new slant.
Yeah, he needs a new guy to hate on. But Giannis is, and he keeps harping on his free throws. But that's one of his only weaknesses. I mean, obviously the 3-point shooting, but I mean, Shaq couldn't shoot free throws. Shaq couldn't shoot threes. So he's Shaq-like, and he has all this potential growth, and he's amazing right now. He's the sky is the limit, and he's also one of the greatest players of all time right now. which is just crazy. Like if he could shoot 35% from three, right now he's shooting, I think this season it was like 29% or something. So if he can somehow shoot 35% from three, it's going to be so. It's going to be. I'm not going to say it's going to be over, but because there's great players, other great players. But my point is that he is the present and the future of the league, and he's as unstoppable a player as there is in the NBA right now. And I mean, either way, though, I do like the Celtics team. I like the young guys in that team. I like Jaylen Brown a lot. I like Jason Tatum. I see what you're saying with some of these players, how they're kind of like, because a lot of them are milquetoast and they don't really, there's not really something you can latch onto, be like, oh, that guy has a cool personality, or God, I'm sounding like we're doing online dating or something. But no, it's like, there's, you kind of get drawn because someone's funny or, they have a cool playing style. But I think for me, it's because I play DFS and some fantasy basketball.
Yep.
It's like,
which I do not, so I don't have that.
When they put up these like gaudy numbers, like you start to like find yourself, oh, they seem a little cooler now because like they won me a little money, or like
the way it would in fantasy football.
Exactly. So it's like, Jason Tatum goes off for 60 one night and you're like, Jesus Christ, he put up like 85 fantasy points when like 45 is what he usually puts up. You know? So
can I say one real quick thing on the Bayless thing? And here's the reason why it won't work above all else, right? The reason that whole shtick has worked for Skip Bayless the way it has is because we are going on a dozen years now where LeBron has been a very polarizing figure. He makes decisions that are going to be polarizing and that some people are not going to agree with. And LeBron has made himself a lightning rod repeatedly with some of the things he's done and said in ways that make it where he sometimes seems like he misreads the room or he makes things about himself and all the rest. Skip Bayless, with his hatred of LeBron, he starts with that part of it, the kind of personality part of it, and everything else spiderwebs from there, which is interesting because that's the one thing that he kind of does have to go on. When he actually tries to criticize his game, he just repeatedly looks like a fool because LeBron is an all-time great, right?
Yeah.
And the reason that won't work with Giannis is that Giannis doesn't and hasn't done any of those things LeBron has done. He's like the complete opposite, right?
It's a great point.
You can't sink your teeth into something that Giannis has said that's selfish or perhaps tone deaf or anything like that. So he's just going to be kind of swinging, punching at the wind, I think, if he goes after Giannis.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Giannis is uncontroversial, and under those videos where Bayless is just doing this like sophistry against Giannis, basically just arguing just for the sake of arguing. You see all these comments of people just trashing Bayless, like he's out of touch, he's a sad old man, like all this other stuff, So it's funny. I don't know. It's just the whole NBA is filled with a lot of interesting personalities, and I find myself just getting drawn in. And as I told you earlier, before we started recording, I'm a fiend, man. I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think it's like the fantasy aspect, the stats, all these different personalities. But I think it's and the skill level is crazy. Like the shot making is outrageous. Like
it's ridiculous. I mean, it's never been better in those regards. There's no disputing that. But it sounds to me though like you have reversed course from a year ago where you were like, I realize I just don't like that many players. You have opened your arms and widened your net.
Yeah, I've craned my neck, giraffe like. No, I mean, honestly, I still when you were talking about those players, I was nodding along to a lot of them. I mean, Miami, I can't stand any of those guys.
They're just so boring. Miami just leaves me so.
The whole heat culture thing is just. It's just there's this level. Like one thing I loved about the Spurs was like the humility, and I mean I like a little brashness here and there. It's funny. It adds it's entertainment value for like the games when they're talking shit to each other.
It works with the Warriors, in my opinion. The Warriors can pull it off. I mean, they're definitely brash, but it's in a way that doesn't come across.
But
as
some
like,
people hate the Warriors. I mean,
that's
some people
true.
like can't stand
100%.
Steph's little like.
Which I don't
His
know how you can
dances
watch
after
the way.
he hits his like 7-3 of the game, and he's like
No, I
dancing
know.
around doing his airplane
I mean, if
thing.
you're a California person who cheers for another team, or you're a Western Conference fan, like a real devoted, truly like diehard fan, I guess I get it. I don't know how you could be even remotely neutral and watch the Warriors play and be like, I don't like the way that they play. I think that's crazy.
It's a beautiful brand of basketball.
Yeah.
It's the
It's
passing,
like
the
the
movement.
Chiefs, kind of like the Chiefs in football, NFL.
Totally,
Right?
totally.
Okay.
And funny enough, I got a free Chiefs hat because I ordered a Niners hat and they sent me a Chiefs hat by
Nice.
accident. So now I have this like Chiefs hat in plastic, just sitting in my closet.
One thing I want to. Okay, so let's do. I guess I gotta get out of here.
Actually, I got to run in like 10. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's do.
that.
Because I'm putting it at the clock is at 06 right now, so let's go to 11. 5 minutes on this, right?
Cool.
So it recently came up in a group chat of ours that we not to date ourselves, but let's literally date ourselves here. We just passed the 20th anniversary of a very infamous senior prom night. Now this is a basketball podcast, so we're not going to be talking about senior prom night, Ben. But
You can talk about it.
the reason I bring this up is because what followed not long after that senior prom night in May of 2002 was an all-time infamous, legendary, if I could use infamous again for a second time, series between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Sacramento Kings. The Lakers trying to three-peat and the Kings trying to not let them three-peat and failing. So my question is, 20 years on, what are your memories of that series?
I can't thank you enough for bringing this up. And honestly, I could do a whole podcast just talking about this series. Not that I'm super knowledgeable about it, but I could, we could do a little research to refresh our memories. Yeah. But
Bobby Jackson,
Doug Christie, Scott Pollard, Doug Christie, Vlade, Hito,
Young Peja.
Young Hito, I think was he involved?
Young Hito and Young Peja.
Young Peja, who people just forget about Peja, and supposedly his son is like really good. Supposedly he's coming up. He's going to be like in a draft pretty soon.
Peja was like unguardable before he got hurt.
Oh, dude, he was so and then he got hurt as what happens with a lot of players, and like for him, if you lose just like a little bit of quickness for the guys like that, it's like then you can't even get your shot off basically.
Yeah.
But he was talk about a dead eye. Like unreal shooter, but so yeah, that and of course Chris Webber, who is
tragic figure
post horrible injury, but no man, they should have won that series. It was there's like some great YouTube videos, really dramatically and artistically edited. They're hilarious. They just like kind of take you through. And the best part is Bill Walton's on the telecast, and he's like, oh, that's a horrible. Oh, like he's constantly just like, what is going on? Like, I mean, they could tell something was going on. I mean, it is definitely those some of the, at least some or all those games were fixed. And it's not a conspiracy. I mean, that was like before Donaghy, and it was crazy because I mean, David Stern's on record saying he wishes it was LA, New York every year. It goes on, but. I mean, that Kings team, we want to talk about great passing, ball movement, like the Warriors, similar, not as focused on the three, obviously, but just like amazing passing, just so unselfish, like 2013, 14 Spursian, just like the beautiful game, constantly moving without the ball, passing. It was something else. And like they should have won that series. I can't remember which game it was. Maybe it was game 6 or game 5, where like all those calls. It was like a parade to the free throw line. It was
game 6. Yeah, they were up 3-2, and the game was in LA, and that's like the infamous one.
Yeah,
and then they lost game 7 at home.
Yeah, and that was a close game too. But like, I mean, it was just, it was horrible because if they had won that series. And then they would almost definitely win the championship, I think. I think it was the Nets that year, and they weren't very good. I mean, they were good.
Yeah. The Nets were like a speed bump. No, they weren't good at all.
They were good enough to get to the finals in that kind of shitty Eastern Conference.
Like beyond shitty East.
Yeah, so like
That was like the
basically
nadir of the Easter Conference, like truly horrible.
the Kings should get like a trophy. They should make the Kings a trophy,
Yeah.
and Adam Silver should send it to them, and it should just be like, "I'm sorry." It should just say "I'm sorry" on it, like
Hmm.
2002. Just a completely different, like maybe Dick Bavetta, I think is his
Yeah,
name.
Dick Pavetta, yeah.
His like face on the bust or something, because it was just. I'll never forget like being. I think we were in like someone's basement. I don't know if you were there, and I think you were there. Maybe like Brooke Nally, her like her like basement or something. A bunch of us were there. We were watching one of the games. I just have these like little flashes of
I
like,
remember watching the game with the Ori shot at Rushi's.
yeah. Like we would go to
Remember that?
different people's places and watch.
Ori hit that insane 3-pointer at the in was that
Oh
game
yeah,
4?
Vladi like tipped the ball out and
Yeah,
Ori
and
is there.
it would have been 3-1 Kings, right? And instead it was
Yeah,
2-2.
yeah. And some of this stuff is just like, I mean, yeah, the Lakers played well at times, but I just don't. After seeing that one game with all the calls, it was just the evidence for me is overwhelming,
Yeah.
and it's just sad because yeah, if they win, then Sacramento Kings have a championship, and like this horrible dark cloud that has followed them basically
20
besides
years.
that, yeah, besides that little little pocket of greatness, and that was a championship level team. I mean, they
For
had,
sure.
you know, Vlade, Weber. They had all these guys that could, Scott Pollard could kind of could like not hang with Shaq, but like, I think was Ostertag was on Utah. I'm getting
Hmm.
away from the point of this, but my point is that like they had enough guys to throw at Shaq to like make him work, and their offense was like one of the best offenses in the league. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and they had enough depth in that roster where, like, once you got past Kobe, who, Kobe at that point was only 23, but once you got past Kobe, the Lakers had a lot of suspect dudes when it came to like
yeah.
reliability and a lot of old ass dudes. And
Fuck the Lakers. I can't stand the Lakers,
Sacramento
man.
took advantage. But one way to close this out, and this is a true old person, old man take or old uh millennial way
Old
to sort
bastard
of
take.
frame this, yeah, would be, you know, I mean, you talk about the fact that there are all these podcasts, you have basketball Twitter now, you have all these ways to break down the game. You have the actual quality of the product on the court being better than it's ever been. These guys are just insanely skilled. Um, like all of these things being as high level as they have ever been. And I think back to that early and mid 2000s Western Conference, that post Jordan Western Conference,
Oh, it's
and
beautiful.
I miss it greatly, and I miss
Suns,
the
Mavs.
simplicity of, okay, these are the Spurs, this is their core for 5 or 6, 8 years. These are the Kings, this is their core for several years. These are the Mavs, this is their core. These are the Lakers, these are the Suns, and there's no Instagram, there's no like overexposure, there's no like breaking down everything and, oh, actually, the analytics say this, or basketball Twitter says this, or there's a backlash to the analytics, and these entire
Yeah, it's
exhaustive
like paralysis
conversations.
by analysis right now.
Paralysis by analysis is the perfect phrase. You show up and you sit on your couch there on Cherokee Road or on Brittany Valley Road. I'm giving out our home addresses here.
Well, my
And
mom has moved away, so I
she's
no
moved
longer have
away.
a home base,
There
sadly,
we go. Right. So
in
the old castle there on Cherokee Road.
R.I.P. Cherokee
R.I.P.
Road abode.
Right. And you just
Miss
like
you, man.
you turn on TNT, or you turn on, back then it would have been NBC, or E or yeah, and you just watch, and there's no paralysis by analysis, and
Yeah,
it's
just
just
John
8 o'clock.
Tesh,
Yeah, John Tesh, and
Pat
watching
Summerall.
the games, and
Wait, no,
then
that's football.
going through the box scores in the newspaper. It's an era that I wish sometimes, for all the good, I wish we had parts of that back now.
Well, I think it's a good note to end on, Samuel. I agree. I would, as I've said before, I would be on the second floor of my old house, probably in some Umbros and some White Sox and like probably, you know, like a big Umbro shirt or Adidas shirt or something.
Standing up, arms folded.
I would be sitting Indian style or standing up, like kind of sweating because I was still really young, didn't have a lot of sweat glands, but you know, I would be watching on this shitty ass like box TV, NBA on NBC. They had triple headers starting at 12:30.
Yeah, just like an abominable Eastern game.
Yeah.
And then like the real stuff.
Yeah,
the varsity conference, to use Bengali.
Exactly, man. So yeah, it brings back some fond memories. It was a good time, and it was a good time talking to you.
Indeed.
Until next time.
Yeah. Thank you, Gaudy. Let's reconvene maybe when we have a finals matchup or something. Want to do that?
Oh yeah,
excellent,
definitely, man. A lot of great basketball coming up to chat about.
All right. Well, may the better team win on Sunday, and also go Bucks.
Yep. I'm with you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, sir.
Bye-bye.
Gaudy stats.